I've been starting a new supplement. I'm really excited to tell you about it.
Okay.
It's called Mumia.
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 It is just the most incredible supplement. It makes me feel like an actual god on this earth. Like a full protector of the faith, divine right by God, doué mon droit, you know? Like coming down. And it is so good. I take it orally. I take it topically. I could have 50 more sons.
That is incredible. Can you take it, suppository?
Yeah, you can take it anyway.
Fantastic.
So long as your physician knows how to do it properly. So you've never heard of Mumia?
No.
No. Okay. It's actual Egyptian pharaohs.
Get the fuck out, what?
I am dead serious, bro.
Hi. So today I'm going to try to explain to you how the audacity of an inept interpreter, or two, or three, in the 12th and 14th centuries caused the widespread belief that Egyptian mummies were a fantastic cure-all medicine, how it was used, the ramifications of the mummy's popularity, and the eventual pushback, because, yeah, not everyone thought it was a good idea. Shocking, I know, right? But I am also going to try and explain it and justify it, sorta. Look, you're just gonna have to hear me out. Stick around, it'll all make sense in the end, I promise. Originally, my goal for this video was just to discuss whether or not Victorians ate mummies, because man, do people on the internet love to perpetuate that idea. But what I uncovered was so stupid that I figured, like, well, what the hell? Like, the truth is actually more interesting than that question alone. And the answer to that question is no, by the way. They didn't. It's a lot more complicated than that. Now, the practice of corpse medicine is ancient, and the consumption of mummies as medicine is just the most popular example that has also, been taken largely out of context. But it is not the only example. So, to begin, we must ask ourselves this very simple question. How the fuck did we think mummies were medicine? Well, the short answer is someone, probably Matthias Platarius of Salerno in the 1100s, was really stupid. But let's back up a bit. The word mummy is derived from both Persian and Arabic. In the Persian word mum, it means wax, and in Arabic, the word mumia translates to both bitumen and mummies as we know it. And if this is wrong, I'm sorry. That's what Wikipedia told me, and I apologize. Okay, now, bitumen is a naturally occurring substance. It's a petroleum product that exists in both an extremely sticky and liquid viscous state, or in a solid kind of more rock form, because its melting point is at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll put the Celsius somewhere here, because I don't know the Celsius number, I'm sorry. For this particular video, what we are discussing is the naturally occurring bitumen found in and around the Dead Sea. It's similar to tar and pitch, and modern man-made bitumen is still used in the making of asphalt for our roads. So yes, this video does have a very weird and cursed Venn diagram crossover to our Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, who is also a Hoosier. I'm so sorry, Pete, if you see this cursed drawing. I do want to be clear that what I am discussing here, though, is the naturally occurring bitumen and not like what Pete would be really into. While I am not qualified to go into the specifics, bitumen does seem to be used as a bit of a catch-all term today for a few different things in modern English. And so even though they do seem to have slightly different chemical compositions. Either way, please don't go into my comments trying to explain to me about roads. It's not the point of the video. Bitumen was known in ancient Rome and Greece as a fantastic medicine. Pliny the Elder wrote about its effectiveness in treating cataracts, toothaches, gouts, coughs, wounds, catarrh fever, which is a type of malaria, and even leprosy. And at the same time of Pliny, Dioscorides also praised bitumen, and he suggested piscifold as a great substitute for Dead Sea bitumen. Oh wow, oh no, I'm so embarrassed. How did that end up in my PowerPoint? Wow, someone must have played a cruel joke on me. Ha! Anyways, Rhazes, in the 10th century, he's actually credited for the first publication of the word mumia, and in the following century, Avicenna also used mumia to describe bitumen and how it was useful for treating abscesses, eruptions, fractures, concussions, paralyses, hemicrania, epilepsy, vertigo, coughing up blood, so TB, I guess, I don't know, I'm not John Green, debility of the stomach, nausea, disorders of the liver and spleen, internal ulcers, anti-poison, and that it was also good for contusions, so like argan oil, oh my god.
nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Yay, Pepto-Bismol!
It was useful both internally and externally. Do you see where I'm going with this, by the way? Do you see like what kind of cursed little journey we're going on?
We're going on an adventure, Charlie.
Flash forward to our boy. Hold on, let me find, here we go. So flash forward to our boy, Matthias Platarius of Salerno. This is actually supposed to be him. He took Constantinus Africanus's work, which had the same definition of mummia as Avicenna, and he changed it to mummia is a spice found in the sepulchres of the dead. Sepulchres is just another term for a tomb or a place of burial, which isn't like technically wrong because, you know, like it was believed that bitumen was used in the embalming process of mummies, but it wasn't what the Arabic-speaking physicians were saying either. This bad translation wasn't just a one-off, no. The real mess actually started in the 13th century when Simon Genesis mistranslated the work of even Serapion the Younger as, quote, mummia is the mummia of the sepulchres with aloes and myrrh mixed with the liquid of the human body. Now we just have bonus ingredients to make up the mummia. It's like a Cursed Iron Chef's episode, and I would know this for a fact because I actually watched the trout ice cream episode of Iron Chef, just saying.
This is what we call extreme cuisine.
Let alone the fact that no one seemed to review his work or second guess this leap is honestly, it's impressive, okay? And like by impressive, I do mean the terrifying and hilarious kind, not the actual like impressive, like, woo, you're a genius type of way. I mean like, I'm horrified. Though I do think there's a reason why no one like second guessed this, and we will be getting into that shortly. But it is here in the 12 and 1300s that we see Europeans make this giant leap into chaos and this very cursed conclusion that the solidified embalming materials in the mummified corpses from ancient Egypt is the same mummia that is being praised as a great medicine by Pliny the Elder, Dioscorides, and others. It's just a really horrific example of an ill-timed game of telephone and how it can have absolutely insane results. Because we go from mummia meaning the naturally occurring bitumen to mummia being the bitumen and other embalming substance found in mummies to just dead people, period. That's it. So like Giovanni Vigo's definition, quote, the flesh of a dead body that is embalmed, and it is hot and dry in the second grade, and therefore has virtue to incarnate wounds and to staunch blood. To make matters even worse, in the 1500s, Swiss-German physician Paracelsus, in what I can only assume is a desperate attempt to make a name for himself in this subject, or maybe he was a massive idiot. I don't really know. Could be both. It could be that he was just a weirdo too. Who knows, right?
¿Por qué no las dos?
He came up with a brand new interpretation that mummia can only be made from the body of a man who did not die a natural death, but rather died an unnatural death with a healthy body and without sickness. Because by dying a sudden and violent death instead of by old age or illness, that their vitality and health would become like a part of the mummia. Like that was like the medicine part, not like the bitumen, but like the vibes, thus increasing its effectiveness.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that this conclusion that mummia should come from a body that was killed either through torture, homicide, or accident didn't set off any alarm bells? No one was grossed out by the idea of making medicine from a dead body?
No, not really.
Why?
Well, I have some bad news for you. It turns out medical cannibalism is a thing, and it was a thing for a really long time.
Now, before we continue on with this podcast and video, I first want to give a shout out to the sponsor, Brooklinen. As the king of England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and France, I don't want to hear it, Henry.
You're making a little mistake.
No.
A little one?
Calais.
Come on.
One word.
Calais.
Calais. It is very important that I get a kingly night's sleep. And that is why Brooklinen is such an excellent sponsor to this video, because Brooklinen creates fantastic home goods that are high quality of natural materials, and also because they are direct to consumer, extremely affordable. In the summer months, I do actually love using the linen hardcore sheet bundle because linen is really great at wicking away moisture and helping regulate your body temperature, keeping it cool and comfortable when you sleep a little hot
in the fall and winter months, oh, there is nothing giving you a better royal treatment than the Luxe Hardcore Cotton Sateen Bundle set, because it is smooth, silky, and soft. It comes in fantastic colors. And when you order it in a bundle, you actually get a discount versus, say, if you ordered it piecemeal. The other thing that Brooklinen is starting to do, which I am so excited about, is the fact that Brooklinen actually has real wool throws. So like real wool blankets. So none of this like artificial materials, none like plasticky. No, real wool. Oh my God, I am obsessed. So that is my new favorite blankie when I'm having some me time on the sofa. If you would like to give Brooklinen a try, for all of my first time customers to Brooklinen, if you use the link in my description, you will get 15% off your first purchase. And of course, don't forget, order in the bundle form so that way you actually get the best discount, because if you order things piecemeal, you're gonna pay a lot more than what you really truly need to. So with that, I wanna give a huge thank you to Brooklinen for sponsoring this video and this not actual real podcast with Henry VIII and Henry IV. And with that, back to something.
Part 2. Humans are weird and gross. Using the human body for medicinal purposes goes back through ancient history, okay? Like, for example, a persistent treatment for curing epilepsy for like hundreds to thousands of years was to have the patients drink the blood of a healthy person who recently perished. Like, seriously, I'm not even joking.
Tastes good.
There are references to this dating back to ancient Rome and the gladiators all the way up through the early 1800s. It was so common that part of the treatment included the patient running to the point of exhaustion to prevent the known reaction of iron toxicity that happens when human blood is consumed. Quote, some say that blood drank hot cures epilepsies if violent exercise is used after it, but is very dangerous, for oftentimes it causeth epilepsies, y'all, and brings great tremblings upon them that take it. Richard Sugg points out in his book, Mummies, Cannibals, and Vampires, The History of Corpse Medicine from the Renaissance to the Victorians, that views around a dead body and how it was treated after death is very different than how we view the body today. And like, corpse medicine was, quote, emphatically, necessarily Christian in its roots and its logic. Beyond the whole, like, I don't know, Eucharist situation in Catholicism, corpse medicine can't easily be brushed off as unchristian either. So because it generally just doesn't go against medieval and early modern Christian religion. This does help explain why the mistranslations of Mummia didn't like set off any alarm bells initially, because within early medieval Christian logic, it made sense. It wasn't weird. And no, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but when you learn how much of the human body was used medicinally, it makes a bit of 4,000 to like 20,000 year old dried bone dust seem pretty tame. I'm not gonna lie. Comparatively, it's really not that bad. And this was like persistent too, okay? Like in the 1678, the New London Dispensatory, you can actually find references to the use of blood, both the regular kind and the menstrual blood. Of course, that has to be from virgins. Only the best, right? Urine and even semen. Quote, the experience has found it good against witchcraft. Now, these recipes are all listed in the section of the living body, okay? There is a separate section for medicinal uses of the dead body, where they list multiple types of mummia, as well as the use of fat, bones, organs, and even the human brain for medicine. As for what mummia was used for, dissolving congealed blood, forcing a woman to have her period, expelling, quote, air in the bowels and veins. It helps with cough, healing wounds, and it was also considered an anti-poison and to help treat the plague. Now, all in all, not really all that shocking or scandalous. These claims, as well as the like mystical ideology that surrounded the whole like consumption of ancient Egyptian kings, queens, and virgins, meant that mummia became extremely popular, and that led to a lot of international issues.
So we take the bodies from Egypt, okay, and then we put them in a box.
In a box.
And then we put those boxes in another box. And we put that box on a ship, and we sail that ship back to England.
Right.
And then we smash it with a hammer!
Part 3, stealing bodies and cooking criminals.
In 1424, authorities in Cairo arrested, tried, and imprisoned grave robbers who were caught boiling ancient Egyptian mummies in water and skimming the oil that rose to the top to sell to Europeans as mummia. Unsurprisingly, Egyptian authorities were like,
hey, stop dealing in dead bodies for your weird-ass woo-woo medicine shit, okay, you fucking weirdos?
In an attempt to deter this really awful pattern, Egypt banned, or at least they tried to, the exportation of genuine mummies.
Don't cross this line!
Getting the good stuff, as it were, into Europe became increasingly difficult. Not impossible, but still difficult. But despite the ban, we have evidence of Europeans getting their grubby little hands on real mummies throughout the 1500s. For example, there was a shipment of 800 pounds of what seems to be real mummia into Britain in the 1580s. Because of the popularity and the easy money to be made, we see two large issues at hand. One has a huge impact on our modern world, and that is grave robbing was extremely common and popular, and countless burial sites were ravaged. So yes, that does mean that there is a technical snowball's chance in hell, like a very small chance, that Henry VIII actually consumed Cleopatra.
I'm swallowing powdered cane.
Medicinally, of course. And I swear to God, y'all, if you all take that out of context and it ends up somewhere on Twitter, TikTok, or Tumblr, I will find you. Do I look like someone to mess with right now? No, I don't think so.
First, I have to say this pink marker on the table is really giving me anxiety. Fuck's sake, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, bro.
Obviously for us, this means that the archaeology sites with world-changing information is forever lost, all because some idiot didn't know Arabic as well as he thought he did.
Back to school to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
Once grave robbing became increasingly difficult due to government intervention and just the lack of access because the easy spots were, already emptied out, those looking to make a buck off of European explorers, smugglers, and businessmen were taking recently dead bodies and quickly mummifying them, stuffing their corpses into asphalt and other materials, and then taking those bodies out to the sands to dry out and to mummify them. What we call this in the business is counterfeit or artificial mummies, and they also become a valid form of mummia as medicine. So this wasn't a secret or anything. So basically throughout the 16th century, Europe was ravaging the Middle East looking for mummies. I mean, what else is new? To fulfill the demand for the new cure-all medicine. And as the century progressed, access to real mummies decreased and medical pushback began in earnest, which we'll talk about next. So this conflict, this struggle, if you will, results in a broadening definition of mummia in the 17th century. Now, probably one of the most iconic examples of this comes from the London Dispensatory, which I mentioned earlier from 1678. In this book, the author describes 5, yes, count them, 5 actual types of mummia. The first is actual piscifault and bitumen. So yeah, by 1678, they knew that there was an actual difference between mummies and bitumen, but they didn't care. The next one is flesh of a carcass dried by the sun and buried in the sands of Egypt. The next is a liquid that comes from a carcass embalmed with piscifault. So this is the Egyptian variety, by the way. Now, if you want the Arabic variety of mummia, that is a liquor which sweats from the carcasses embalmed with myrrh, aloes, and balsam. Finally, there is the artificial mummy, which is modern, and it comes with its own DIY tutorial.
My husband and I both woke up with the plague today and wanted to take some mummia, but we don't keep it in the house. So instead of going to the apothecary, I decided to make it from scratch. First, I took the carcass of a young man. I prefer red hair, but blonde will do fine. Not dying of a disease, but killed. And then I soaked it in fresh, clean water for 24 hours. Then I cut the flesh into pieces and added some powder of myrrh and a little aloe. I let that imbibe for 24 hours in the spirit of wine and some turpentine. After imbibing, I hung it up for 12 hours. Then I imbibed it again another 24 hours in fresh spirit. Next, I hung the pieces in a dry and shadowy place so the flesh will dry out and not stink. After drying, I ground the mummia into a fine powder and it's ready to serve. My family really enjoyed it. The flavor profile was delicious.
Part 4, a wicked drug and an inept interpreter. I know that so far I've made it seem that everyone was on the mummy bandwagon, but cultures are not monoliths, and some humans, quite frankly, are smarter than others.
Now, I want to understand a little more, what do these kings, these ancient kings have that we do not? That we need to swallow them I feel empowered already. I feel strong.
It's the goo.
The goo.
The goo.
We don't have the goo here.
No, because it's a special kind of goo.
So almost as soon as Mummies became the hot new supplement for all of our medieval MLMs, dare I say, it was the original pyramid scheme. There were people speaking out against its use. When Bartholomew Traheron translated Giovanni de Vigo's work 30 years after its first publication, he noted that while Vigo's definition was, quote, the common opinion, others defined mummia as piscifault. A few years earlier, in 1539, Aloysius Mandela considered the use of mummies as abominable and detestable, instead of using true bitumen. Amen, brother. Now, this pushback continued throughout Europe as physicians began comparing their own translations of Pliny and Dioscorides, Avicenna, and Serapion's writings to the popular interpretation of mummia. Unsurprisingly, they realized that there had been a grave error. Pierre Boullon pointed out in 1553 that there was a mass misinterpretation of mummia, and that instead of using real bitumen and piscifault referenced by Dioscorides, that Europeans were using the wrong stuff, and he even considered it dangerous and valueless, even if King Francis I carried mummia and rhubarb on his person in case of emergencies. And I'm talking about this King Francis I, not this great value version of Henry IV. Okay, cool. In what I think is my favorite example of this, Portuguese physician Amadis Lusitanis called the popular translation of Serapion's work that of a, quote, inept interpreter. And condemned those who manufactured and sold fake mummies in the name of medicine. Fake as in they weren't genuine mummies from ancient Egypt, not fake as in not human. This opens up the door for physicians to understandably question the efficacy of mummia as medicine. Ambrose Paré stopped prescribing mummia, encouraging others to do the same, calling it a, quote, wicked kind of drug, doth nothing help the diseased. He also points out that while there is a lot of confusion around what real mummia is, that since Egypt isn't allowing the exportation of true ancient mummies, that Europe is just getting poor people. Ew. Wherefore we are thus compelled both foolishly and cruelly to devour the mangled and putrefide particles of the carcasses of the basest people of Europe, as though there was no other way to help or recover one bruised with a fall from a high place. Now, if this drug were anyway powerful for that they require, they may perhaps have some pretense for this their more barbarous inhumanity. In 1597, Jean Gerard noted that Egyptians weren't even using bitumen for embalming, but cedar pitch, and that the original translator of Serapion, so I can only assume he's talking about Simon Geniesis, as, quote, was the cause of this error, who translated and interpreted mummia according to his own fancy, and not after the sense and meaning of his author, Serapio, saying that this mummia is a composition made of aloes myrrh mingled together with the moisture of the man's body. So look, out of everything we're discussing here today, the one truth that we can hold on to is that academia has always been petty and vicious as fuck. I also want to point out that it's not like patients were always keen on taking mummia either. There's a great quote that says, the physicians and apothecaries do against our wills make us swallow.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
So creating this narrative that everyone was wild about taking mummia and building this fantastical scenario of Victorians gnawing on a pharaoh's femur, it just isn't true. People were against it as much as they were for it, and unsurprisingly, mummia's popularity does fade over time.
Part 5. The Scientific Victorians. In the mid-1700s, we see a massive shift in science, politics, and culture begin in Europe and in the colonies as well. Ideas around health and wellness changed, moving away from the humor-based medicine to an approach and methodology that it's much more closely aligned to our current practices, because microscopes. Mummia, unsurprisingly, was considered a remnant of the ye olde times form of medicine. So by the 1800s, research shows that for the most part, mummia wasn't really used medicinally. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, that there wasn't a jar on a shelf in an apothecary in middle of nowhere Europe in a small town somewhere. There is actually evidence of mummia existing into the early 20th century in some more remote parts of Europe. But from a broader cultural sense, it just fell out of favor. Excuse me, you're getting a little handsy. Let's just put this back up here.
And Victorian doctors even used it as an example of quackery and bad medicine in history. Quote, the catacombs of Egypt were ransacked and the mummies were brought to Europe and manufactured into medicine and given as the universal physic. Soon that terrible enemy of quackery and false doctrines, statistical medicine, give it up, what? Declared against the mummy practice. So this like whole Victorians ate mummies.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Did you know that Victorians ate fucking mummies? Oh my god, crazy.
Like that whole thing that circulates on the internet is like weird because one, no one like ate mummies. Taking them medicinally meant a small amount that was mixed in with other ingredients, okay? It wasn't like you were like gnawing down on a baby back rib.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back ribs. Oh.
It also could have been used topically too, from what I can understand with the readings. Secondly, and the most ironic, and at least in my opinion, modern academics researching mummies and medicine like actually use Victorian sources as like the jumping off point to research the subject. Thomas Pettigrew published his book, A History of Egyptian Mummies in 1834. And the second chapter is actually completely devoted to the history of using mummies as medicine and how it was caused from a mistranslation. He cites all of his sources, so you know how impressive that is, okay guys? Like he was serious about this. Every single secondary source that I have read about mummies as medicine, they reference Pettigrew. He doesn't condone the use of mummies as medicine. He's actually referencing it as a thing of the past and discussing how it happened, like how we got to that point. In addition to Pettigrew's work, there is an 1838 book entitled History of Those Substances Whose Medicinal Properties Seem to Depend on the Presence of Creosote. And in the second part, they actually discuss the translation issues around mumia and deduce that bitumen and pisifalt are essentially the same thing, creosote. So you don't need mumia. To them, creosote is the same thing and possibly better. So yeah, that's the other like weird connection to like infrastructure and everything is like creosote is related. It's not the same, but it is related to bitumen and pisifalt. While there might have been like a chance that a quack like tried to reintroduce mummies as a cure-all sometime in the mid 1800s, it was quickly shut down. Recalls to mind the mummy medical speculation, which had a successful run a few years ago. By judicious advertising, the idea was spread all over Europe that there was a wonderful medicinal virtue in mummy, and the embalmed corpses of Egyptian nobility were imported in large numbers and perhaps manufactured to order as a certain cure for all human maladies. And I think it's important to distinguish here quack versus like a real Victorian doctor. And look, if you've watched this channel before, you know I am not one to go to bat for Victorian doctors because a lot of them are dumb as hell. Like dumb as hell. But I will give them this. They might have thought uteruses hung by strings and that 1-inch heels would cause uterine prolapses and not want to wash their hands after surgery, but they at least understood that ground up human remains from ancient Egypt weren't going to cut it as a pharmaceutical. I mean, the bar is low, like it's on the ground, but they still crossed it. The best thing I can compare this to, it's all the misinformation and downright scary medical advice, big air quotes there, guys, that was going viral on certain parts of the internet around COVID and about COVID. And we still see evidence of this and deal with it today. Like, I don't know if you all know this or not, but there's literally an entire Wikipedia page devoted solely to COVID-related quackery scams. Not just in the US, okay, but like all over the world. And I'm talking magical 5G pendants to injecting bleach.
See the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that? By injection inside or
ivermectin, consuming poisonous fruit, drinking urine. Okay, medieval times. While we might not be taking dried corpses as medicine, we as a society are still completely susceptible to believing bad medical advice, especially with how the internet works.
And I just bought this anti-EMF chip too. Have you seen these?
But I read all of the clinical data on that and the clinical studies, and it's really interesting that scatter technology.
And COVID is just like the largest and most recent and most harmful example of this. I know I will probably get pushback for what I'm about to say because it's going to make people deeply uncomfortable. The historic record shows that if we didn't have our own strong moral belief that corpse medicine was bad, I think it is completely possible for charlatans and quacks to convince people to take mummy medicinally. The kids were taking Tide Pods, guys.
While many teens may view the craze as a lighthearted joke, doctors say that the trend can result in irritation and burns in the mouth. No kidding.
Now look, we had people injecting themselves with bleach, all right, thinking that that was gonna like cure them of COVID. And that was just a couple years ago. Honestly, is a bit of 4,000+ dried bone powder really that much more terrible or even life-threatening? Because, like, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. If I was tied up in a chair and I had to pick between the two, well, mum's the word, baby.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our Alpha Kings podcast episode for the day. This is Henry VIII signing off.
Henry the Fourth.
And if you enjoyed this podcast like I know you did because you are a lord in the making, then you better be smashing that like button and slapping that subscribe button to get more quality advice from your two favorite 16th century royal kings.
There you go. Slap and smash it.
Slap and smash it. With that, my lords, my knights, this is Henry VIII.
And Henry the Fourth.
Au revoir, motherfuckers.
Au
revoir. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Beat.
Multigram, Madonna, ADHD, it's okay. I'm just gonna dance because I keep seeing myself in the monitor and I'm making myself laugh. Okay, where was I? Sorry, MJ.
Cut the flesh into pieces.
This is my last resort.
Okay, there we go. But rather died an unnatural death. Thank you, Juju. Did you really have to walk there? You are a big girl. I'll let you guess who was responsible for that, ladies. As you wish. You know what I mean?
This is like cursed mukbang. So no, as like the most powerful king in the world, right? Because I'm the king of England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. Lost a button. Anyways. Do you want some? No.
I'm sorry, you said the most powerful king in the world?
Absolutely, bro.
I mean, of course you jest.
No, bro. I'm also protector of the faith.
Have you ever heard of someone called the Holy Roman Emperor?
No, no.
I mean,
yeah. You, bro. You, bro. No. Absolutely. You. Ah, no. How can he say that to me? Oh, no. Why would he say that to me?
Okay, I was kidding.
I'm fine.